The New Baby by Glenda Gartrell of Newtown, 2042. Narrated by Janine Penfold. Back in 1939. You did well. A natural mother was high praise for the young mother after the birth of her third child. In 1939, the location was remote, and it coincided with heavy rain following 3 weeks when the temperature was just under 49 degrees. After breakfast, her husband caught a strong stock horse and quickly harnessed it to the horse-drawn sulky. He could always rely on horses and preferred walking pace to engines any day. He knew far more about horses than he would ever know about engines, which to him were necessary evils. The day began the usual way, and the family knew the routine. The man had the cow milked before sunup. Then the parents and the 2 young children drank as much of the frothy, warm milk as they could, knowing it would be curdled within hours and there would be no more before the next morning. There was no refrigeration, no icebox in the simple, unlined, corrugated iron kitchen that had a wood-burning stove. A similar detached room served as a bedroom. She'd already learned to make do to accommodate his decisions, like leaving central North Queensland and the only place she knew. Today would be a long one, but he was confident the horse was up to the journey. The crunch of wheels on the gravel roadway was the first she knew the family would be making the almost 65-kilometre trip home in a sulky. She didn't share her husband's confidence in horses. She was always afraid of them. "Where's the car?" she asked, clasping her 10-day-old baby to her body. He'd not explained why he and the children travelled this way. Once he made a decision, there was no need to discuss it, even with her. "Will we fit?" she thought, but knew not to ask. She's so unsettled. How will she cope with the constant movement? But I have to go. Her third baby was not like the first 2, who settled and nursed as she expected. The husband took the reins, the wife clutching her baby, the children huddled at their feet on the floor of the sulky, and the homeward journey began. They knew there'd be no stops. The children, like the man, learned to hold out for hours without water or food. An easy run along the main road, no cars, just the clip-clop of the horse's shoes on the hard road surface. Then a very short distance from the turnoff, they faced a steep descent to the causeway, usually a dry creek bed, but this time it was in flood and had disappeared beneath swirling, gushing deep water. The road up the bank on either side was the only guide. "Hold on!" were his only words as the horse and loaded sulky began the descent. Heavy rain followed the recent dust storm, which had followed a heat wave and a lengthy drought. The usually slow stream turned into deep, swirling water which rushed over the causeway. It was halfway up the sulky wheels. At the water's edge, the horse hesitated, snorted, and had to be urged to keep going. "Watch this," said the boy as he dug his sister in the ribs. They knew the woman's fear of horses. They'd loved the excitement of the crossing on the way in and had total confidence in their father's judgment that they'd reach the other side. They knew she would not share their excitement, and her tense face confirmed it. From the open seat of the sulky, the water was very close, and she couldn't disguise her alarm. The children's excitement was palpable as the sulky load plunged into the water. Immediately, the jolt of the horse pulling the load forward offset the force of the water sweeping it to the side. Then the baby vomited. Soon after they reached the other side, the boy shouted, "Look, Dad, there's a cow out!" At 5, he was used to life in the saddle, constantly scanning the horizon. From the floor of the sulky, he could still see over the rump of the horse. He was pleased with himself being the first to spot the cow. With a "Hold on!" leaning forward, the man tugged the left rein, slapped the horse's rump with both reins, and the sulky load veered from the road in pursuit of the cow. "Faster!" said the boy as they darted from side to side in unison with the cow, working it towards a gate. Camp drafting is a skill on horseback and a big challenge with a loaded sulky. "No," she thought, and clutched her baby closer. "I can't hold them all. They will have to hang on." There was nothing she could do. This was to be a pattern throughout the following 4 decades of their life together. The cow was soon back in the right paddock. They drew up at home. He stepped down and was shocked. The wheel was holding onto the axle by less than half an inch. Decades later, I'm the baby that survived the uncertain start to life. I thrived, married, and with my own family eventually moved to the city. At my mother's feet, I learned the art of making do, the central role of thrift to survival. It was an era when most working people lived in poorly designed housing and all food was home cooked. Making clothes and growing vegetables were common. In the city, my life took off. I became good at multitasking and a lot else. Through higher education, I learned about systemic inequality in Australia. Spurred on by this knowledge, I joined the Women's Electoral Lobby, WEL, and with a handful of volunteers from WEL, plus a few other reformist groups, gathered data from the public and private sectors. This the reformers translated into legislation which introduced a new social order and better lives for women from most backgrounds. I continue to protect the changes I helped introduce. The end.